Thank you for organizing this and thank you for inviting me to speak. I just met Alexander Dubyanskiy very briefly in Pondicherry. And in fact, we spoke about this chapter in the Cilappatikaaram, which is a text I ended up working on later. So I thought it's apt to present something about it. And it's been also something that I recently finished translating. Um, so basically, for those of you who don't know, I'm in the Hamburg team Tamilx, and my job is to translate the Cilappatikaaram. So that's why I will probably for the next 5 years, if you see me, I'll be talking about the Cilappatikaaram. And one of the things I'm questioning at the moment is, excuse me, chapter 24 of the Cilappatikaaram. It's got 30 chapters altogether, has some very interesting mixtures of traditional Agam ideas with well, it starts to question typical Agam tropes as far as I have seen, and that's what my presentation will be about. And let me start with a quick background about the text itself. So the Cilappatikaaram is one of the five great epics, as they are called in the Tamil world. It's probably the oldest of the five, and most people date it to between the 5th and 7th century, but that's a big window. And it follows the story of Kannagi, a lady who is married to Kovalan, and Kannagi looks for justice when Kovalan is unjustly murdered. And the story basically ends up with her becoming a deity in the Chera kingdom. So she's called the Patini Devadai. So something like the chaste wife. I haven't found a very good translation for this yet, but most people translate it as chaste wife. And in the general sense, the Cilappatikaaram, most of its chapters, that's I think 27 chapters, are composed in Asiriyappa, also known as Agaval meter, and they're basically just a flow of narrative. But there are some exceptions, namely the Kanalvari, which incidentally also has kind of modified Agam poems or Agam tropes in it. The Aichiyar Kuravai, which talks about the cowherdress women in a series of songs about Krishna. And what I will be talking about, chapter 24, which is the Kundra Kuravai. So literally the Kuravai dance or performance of the hill ladies. So for those of you who already know Agam, because we're already approaching kind of the hilly regions, we're already thinking about Murukan because, he's the Kurunji god. And so I found these poems to be very charming and I thought, okay, let's share them with the group. But before that, perhaps it's useful to say something about Agam poetry in general, but I'm not an expert on it, so I'll do my best. At least what I do understand, what most of us do agree on, is that the paradigms of Agam, that is, the rules set down as to what is appropriate, who are the characters, to whom is who speaking, and all of these things are very set in stone by the time we get to the Nattanai, the Kurundogai, the Agananuru, even the Ainguranuru. We have very clear we have very clear tropes. And in the Cilappatikaaram, which is much later, let's say approximately 5 to 6 centuries later, the same tropes are maintained in chapters such as the Kundra Kuravai, but they are modified in ways that I can't quite put my finger on because they use the same tropes, but they treat them differently. You will see, hopefully, when we read the poems together, which are just coming up. But one of the reasons why I am investigating this is because we have an issue generally in Tamil poetry as to in Sangam poetry and post-Sangam poetry, as to how do we date a text. And the Cilappatikaaram has been used extensively on the basis of the Gajabahu, the Kayavagu synchronism story, which is chapter 30 mentions this king in Ceylon. And on the basis of that, people have said that the text is these many years old. I'm not sure about that, mainly because chapter 30 does not seem to be part of the original text. That will be another presentation on another day. But perhaps we could identify the date of the text by examining these tropes, is what I argue. Coming specifically to the nature of these poems, we have to be we're looking at a trope or a kind of like an incident, a poetic incident called Arathodu Nitral, which literally means to stand on the side of or with righteousness or dharma or whatever, with aram. And the idea is that the heroine, she is losing her bangles, and basically she's losing weight because the hero has abandoned her. And her mother worries about her, thinking that she's got some kind of ghost inside her or she needs an exorcism. And of course, the girl tells her mother nothing. So what happens is the mother takes her to a Murugan temple for some kind of an exorcism. I don't know what the right word for it is in English. And before this horrible and very stressful exorcism is performed, the confidant, the female friend of the heroine, runs in and says, "No, no, 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 don't do this. She's just lovesick. She's not possessed." So this Arthur Nitral is the action of the friend. She is the one who decides to confess that this is the story. In the Kundrakuravai, in the Cilappatikaaram, the core matter is kept in place. That is, the poems are about how somebody goes to a Murugan temple, probably in order to alleviate this ghost that's possessing them. But it does not it does not commit to that singular idea. And the other thing is that in general, it's uncommon that you have singular poems in the Cilappatikaaram. So perhaps these poems were written with a kind of flexibility. But what I really enjoyed about them was the fact that the girl is said to run to Murugan, to the temple, or the mother is dragging the girl to the temple. We don't really know who the speaker is in the Cilappatikaaram. But the Tori, that is the confidant, the female friend, laughs at the pair of them, saying, "Oh, they're so stupid because they don't realize that the person who's broken her heart is indeed Murugan." So, hence the title of my presentation. So, there are four poems that capture this very well. I think I will simply read, and if anybody wants to analyze this in more detail, you can contact me. I'm trying to keep within the time limits. So, இறைவளை நல்லாய் இது நகையாகின்றே கரிவளர் தன் சிலம்பன் செய்த நோய் தீர்க்க அறியாள் மற்றன்னை அலர்கடம்பன் என்றே வெறியாடல் தான் விரும்பி வேலன் வருகின்றாள். So, இறைவளை நல்லாய். So she's speaking to a friend of hers. The speaker is speaking. We don't know who the speaker is. Oh, you with with scattered bangles. Nagai, idu nagayagindre. This has become a laughing matter. What has become a laughing matter? Karivalar tan silambam செய்த நோய் தீர்க்க, in order to alleviate the affliction that was created by he of the cool mountainside with karivalar, upon which pepper grows. Ariyal matranne, mother Anne does not know about this. She doesn't know anything about this love situation. Alar Kadamban Yendre. She says we must go to Alar Kadamban. He is the one who will solve it, who is, of course, Murugan. And then she says, Very Adal Tan Virumbi, desiring the performance of the Very Adal, which is part of the rituals in the Murugan temple. Velan Varugendral. She said, Velan, come here. Then she says, whoever the speaker is, Aivali nallai idu nagayagindre. Oh, girl with perfect bangles, this is a laughing matter. This has become a laughing matter, probably. Maamalai verpan noi தீர்க்க, in order to alleviate the affliction by Maamalai verpan, by he of the mountainside, of the mountain, of the great mountain of the Maamalai. தீர்க்க varum velan. Sorry, I got a bit yeah. So, Maamalai verpa noi தீர்க்க varum velan, varum ayan. If the velan comes, if the velan who comes in order to alleviate the affliction that is caused by this man, if he indeed comes, velan madavan, that velan is a fool, that priest is a fool. Avan en kurugu per kundram kondran madavam. Additionally, the one who killed or destroyed the mountain that sorry? Did somebody say something? Okay, I'm going to continue.
Yeah, a request to keep mics closed for all their attendants. Sorry, Neela, go ahead, please.
No worries, thank you. Yeah, so avan in kurugu per kundram kondran madavan. So, in fact, kurugu per kundram kondran, he who destroyed the kundram that has the name of Kurugu. Of course, this is the Krauncha mountain. There are other ways to translate it. I've chosen this for this event. He is also a fool. So basically, the idea is the person who speaks says the Velan who is ready to perform this exorcism upon this girl is a fool. The Murugan for whom the Velan performs this exorcism is also a fool, because the irony of it is that he is the lover who's broken this girl's heart in the first place. That will become clear in the next two poems somehow. Yeah. Okay. நேரிழை நல்லாய் நகையாம் மலை நாடன் மார்பு தரு என் நோய் தீர்க்க வரும் வேலன் தீர்க்க வரும் வேலும் தன்னினும் தான் மடவன் கார் கடப்பம் தார் என் கடவுள் வருமாயன். So this is a little bit tricky to translate. I'm happy to hear any and all suggestions. So I will just read out what I have, because there is a repetition that confuses me a little bit. So நேரிழை நல்லாய் நகை ஆம், O girl with straight or perfect jewels, நகை ஆம். It is a laughing matter. More than the Velan priest that comes in order to alleviate my affection, that is Velan Tanninum. So what is the issue? Given, and the affliction that is given by the chest of the Lord of the Mountains. For those who don't know the context, usually the woman makes love to the chest of the man and the man makes love to the shoulders of the girl. So it is the chest of the Lord of the Mountains that creates her issue. The Velan priest that comes to alleviate it, my lord, with the garland of dark kadapam, is indeed a fool, if he indeed comes. So even more than the priest, the idea is even more than the priest who comes to, because he's on a false mission, even more than him who comes here thinking, oh, I will cure this girl. The one who's the real fool is Murugan himself. That is the one, the Kar Kadamam Tariyan Kadavul, my God, Murugan, with the garland of Kadamam. Okay, and then finally we have something called a Pattumade. So these poems are interesting also because of a structural thing, that they're not called anything except Pattumade. And I'm not really sure what this is. I don't think anyone really is. But yes, it's printed Pattumade for this last poem of the series of 4. வேலனார் வந்து வெறியாடும் வெம்களத்து நீல பறவை மேல் நேரிடை தன்னோடும் ஆள் அமர் செல்வன் புதல்வன் வந்தால் மால்வரை வெற்பன் மணாணி வேண்டுதுமே. So the son of the man who sits under the banyan, that is, I assume Shiva, who sits under the banyan, will come along with her with perfect jewels, her being Parvati, upon the bluebird, the peacock, to the Vemkalam. So I've translated as hot arena, but perhaps it's let's stick with hot arena perhaps, where the respected Velan priest, having comes, dances the very dance. If they come, we may request the marriage procession with he of the great mountain. So the poems basically summarize it as, oh, this man has broken her heart. This man is Murugan who broke her heart. And then the last poem says, if they all do come to perform this ritual, if the priest comes and he does his very adal, and if he then summons Murugan through this dance, maybe that's the right time to ask this man for marriage. So for those of you who are familiar with Agam poetics, you would know that a lot of these concepts come from Agam, but the way that they are treated particularly are not captured in these poems. So that the treatment of the existing tropes is quite unique in these 4 poems and in the Cilappatikaaram in general. So I do not have many conclusions at this stage, but I will pose a few questions and we can discuss it. I believe I'm the last presentation of the session. So first and foremost, does examining tropes actually offer us a better way of dating a text? Because the Cilappatikaaram is very controversial in this situation. The second thing is the development of what is called kilavis, which are, let's say, mini commentaries that tell you in the early corpus who is speaking to whom. So the heroine speaks to the hero. Sometimes these things are a little bit ambiguous. So you have a speech situation that's presented by the kilavi. And so I wonder if perhaps we had those for these poems, which would probably bring a lot of clarity to what's happening, and that we have lost them. in general, in terms of the composition of a Perungapiam, so Cilappatikaaram is a Perungapiam, is one of the five great epics, right? But we don't know much about what the paradigms of composition are. In Agam, we know that we have to fulfill certain rules in order to produce an Agam poem because we have treatises about it. But in terms of the Perungapiam, we don't have these things. So is there some kind of a rule that, oh, we have to include some of the older tropes? I wonder about this. Um, there are other chapters that touch upon such things where they take older tropes and kind of novelize them or modify them, and they are also worth considering in the study. So we shall see. This is a work in progress, and thank you all very much.